That's right, Jess Rush. We're talking old pudding fingers DeSantis. I'll tell you what, this guy is pretty exemplary of the kind of Republican we will have from now on. I believe firmly that the Republican Party is dying. It cannot, it has shown the next generation that there is no reason to vote for them at all. They don't do anything for anybody. The Republican Party relies entirely on the misconceptions they worked so hard to instill in the last couple of generations. God help me, including mine. Although less of us fell for it because more of us got screwed by them being victorious in so many political fields, venues, I guess. But Ron DeSantis is their future. He's what remains of them. It's authoritarian talking points. It's forcing others to live the way the worst of us want to live. The absolute scum of America. And he's going to try to appeal to them. What does that look like? That looks like grouping up with other like-minded psychopaths whose interests align and fighting everybody whose interests don't align, including other like-minded psychopaths. It's going to be fun. It's like hitting fast forward on a Republican career watching DeSantis, because he is through and through a modern Republican. Let's look at his announcement for his running for president and show you what an event, and if you extrapolate a country run by these people, looks like.
Do you remember that time that billionaire Elon Musk unveiled the new Tesla Cybertruck? And when he went to demonstrate the vehicle's supposedly bulletproof glass, they smashed two of its windows, even though they weren't supposed to break? Today's Twitter rollout of the Ron DeSantis campaign went kind of like that.
Now it's quiet. We want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event, and more broadly, a first in the history of social media. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the. Sorry about that. We've got so many people here.
So let's see.
So they just keep crashing, huh?
Well, it's certainly an incredible honor to have Governor DeSantis make this stark announcement.
Yo, it was like 20 minutes of that. Trump had the golden escalator. Ron DeSantis got the world's most embarrassing 404 error. Over 20 minutes of technical difficulties that sounded like this. That is how the Florida governor's big entrance in the Republican presidential primary will be forever remembered. DeSantis chose to launch his campaign not during a campaign rally, not on a televised event, but on Twitter.com with Elon Musk. And why? Maybe because Musk and Twitter are the best audience for the DeSantis brand crusade against woke.
I view the wokeness as a form of cultural Marxism.
I think it goes back to this woke mind virus that's infected the left and all these other institutions.
We will never surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where...
Heads up. Cultural Marxism is yet another of the racist dog whistles that this punk uses. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm of the belief that we should start memorizing neo-Nazi talking points, such as when people say globalist. I noticed that has died down a bit because we've been repeating, I think, we being the sane Americans, including those running, national news shows, have been repeating the true fact, that globalist really just means Jew or Jew-friendly. Similarly, with cultural Marxism, that's just a far-right talking point that doesn't mean anything of value to the average voter. Really ask yourself if it if it has any, like, if can you tell me, how about this? Can you tell me, or can any voter out there tell me what cultural Marxism literally means? Just being kind to others, as far as I can tell.
Woke goes to die.
DeSantis now officially a 2024 contender.
Similarly, woke just means being aware of the way the system works. Every time these people say you shouldn't be woke, ask what you should be instead of woke. You should be asleep? You should be ignorant? Yeah, that sounds pretty Republican to me.
Is knee-deep in this kind of impenetrable sphere of contemporary right-wing online culture war fights. Fighting the woke mind virus aligns quite well with Twitter. Its new owner, Elon Musk, has turned the platform into a right-wing forum where he also rails against the woke mind virus, the same ideology embraced by DeSantis. The Florida governor, who is apparently trapped in this online cultural woke bubble, has chosen, for example, to fight with Disney for daring to speak out against him. Even one of his speechwriters, a guy that he chose to hire, has effusively praised notorious white nationalist Nick Fuentes. That's the guy that's writing his words. I can't tell you for sure, but it does not sound like Ron DeSantis' messaging is necessarily resonating with the Republican electorate. Two new polls released today showed DeSantis trailing Donald Trump by roughly 30 points. Former Republican strategist Tim Miller recently pointed out DeSantis' campaign is a lot like Senator Elizabeth Warren's failed 2020 campaign, which relied on a smaller version of the electorate, a narrow but vocal audience. Tim Miller is a former RNC spokesman and current writer-at-large for The Bulwark. Debbie Moore-Cassell-Powell is a former Democratic congresswoman in Florida. Both join me now. Tim, let me start with you, and let me say something you say in the piece, which is that the point you're making, the comparison, is by no means substantive at all. It's purely at this level of, like, where you're trying to fit in the primary. And one of the points you make is Elizabeth Warren was sort of had this campaign that was electric to a certain portion of the Democratic base that proved not to be big enough to win the primary. You think DeSantis is the same problem. And before we get to that, oh my God, can you believe what happened?
Well, I'm just thrilled because I don't know if you remember, but I was part of the John Huntsman presidential campaign announcement. We misspelled our candidate's own name on the credentials. We spelled it John, which to me was so shameful and embarrassing. And by comparison, we crushed it. So thank you to the Ron DeSantis team for making.
Lord knows I appreciate some humility, for God's sake. We'll leave it on that for a moment. Yeah. They're doing a great job of breaking down why DeSantis is not generally a strong candidate, and that Elizabeth Warren point is so good. It's spot on. I knew a lot of folks that were, like, fervently for Elizabeth Warren, to the point that they, like, for a while, they hated Bernie Sanders. That's how behind Elizabeth Warren they were. They saw Bernie as an obstacle rather than an ally. Now, I'm just as guilty. There was a couple of weeks there where I saw Warren as an obstacle. And I got over it eventually because, I was reminded that this is America where primaries are supposed to be competitive and yada, yada, yada. If you can't beat a friend in a friendly competition, you got no business going against the true enemies. So, it's a good point. And that truly is DeSantis. Trump was, for the right, exactly what Obama was for the left. Try to deal with that. Trump promised change. True change. And he didn't deliver it. There's a lot of folks that voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, believe it or not. This class of people that didn't used to participate in politics that now do, largely, whether they wind up on the left or right, they largely have that same complaint. They're sick of the oligarchs stealing from us, and they're sick of patsies in Washington obeying them. And they, if you follow Trump or Obama, it just comes down to culturally, what were you used to already? Did you come from a culture of kindness, of decency, of morals? Then you voted for Obama. If you came from a culture where cruelty is praised, then you voted for Trump. And if you didn't give an F about either of those cultures and you truly you didn't understand politics, but you heard two people that seemed to be shaking things up, then you voted for both. And you were disappointed both times. Bear in mind, that is what we're dealing with. So who's DeSantis in all this? Who's this DeSantis guy? Tim Kaine. That's who DeSantis is. Somebody who's doing the shtick of the last guy not as well. That's what he is. A significant political force. Nearly a vice president, but not a game changer. And the way he ran his little announcement here, that's how he's going to run everything. That's how he's running Florida. Just a disaster. An absolute disaster. It's like if I tried to run Florida, only more hateful. Nothing's where it's supposed to be. Disney's packing up and leaving. Although if it were me, they'd be leaving because I would have abused my power to try to get a gander at Walt Disney's head. I'd be power mad. I'd be like, let me see that Frozen thing. Bullshit. I believe you got it. It's the same thing. I don't recommend either. His presidential campaign is going to be a source of hilarity, and let's put it out there right now. How long do you think it's going to last? 4 months? Do you think it's going to make it through the end of the summer? 6 months? Is it going to go all the way to 2024? I think the amount that Trump is in legal trouble really depends, really informs that answer. I think he's playing the long game, except I don't know why he announced now. If he was truly playing the long game, he should have just waited and waited and waited and waited. Just let Trump get thoroughly screwed and then run. But, oh well.